Join me as I dive deep into the mysterious world of near death experiences and try to uncover what really happens during these life altering moments. Now, this has fascinated both scientists and people in a spiritual sense and just in the scientific sense of what happens after you die. Scientists have kind of put it in a box of just neurons firing in your brain after you die, kind of like last minute brain activity. Statistics show that 100% of people that have died have experienced eternity either in heaven or in hell, in some kind of afterlife. Now, there have been people that have died and come back to life. We call these near death experiences, or NDEs. Now, I'm not going to make you sit there and watch the whole 30 minutes and I have 3 videos to review. They're all kind of long. We're going to just watch the main points. But these are near death experiences. Let's check them out.
Hearing my heart racing and then slowing down and slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And I remember the absolute moment it stopped. That's the most terrifying moment I've ever had in my life. And it was at that moment I just boop, popped out of my body. It was instantaneous, no loss in consciousness whatsoever. And I remember I had the view of my body, and I'm looking at myself, and I know it's me, but I don't feel it connect. There were 2 types of feelings I was having. The first one was sort of trying to figure out what the hell just happened, because I'm not dead. No way. I can't be. I'm so alive. And I felt great. Like I just felt, you're not ever like as a teenager, your body feels great. Like you're almost invincible, right? Well, imagine that times like 1,000. That's how I felt. But I'm also seeing this physical realm in a way that I've never dreamed possible I could see it before. And so I'm in awe. I'm Vina Hill, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was very much an introverted type of child growing up. I did love ballet, had big dreams of becoming a ballerina, and I did that for about 12 years. They said no real something we discussed in that side anywhere. Things was and parent but days prior just get so excited. Just daytime when we went to the airport, I these vitamin pills. My mother's an avid vitamin taker. I didn't make sure I packed NDE, and I system. I hear my a little bit, and that was sort of like a little precursor to what was taking off. Jump over like this, and I remember we had already started taking off. And I just got to the point where I literally felt like I could jump out of my skin. And I remember sort of just like I was leaning over like this, and my heart started really racing, like really racing, to the point where I started hearing it. And I remember this body. I picked it back up and shoved her, as you were supposed to. I had never seen so many different cultures and different types of people. And I remember I was just so tired, and I decided, you know what? I've got these vitamin pills. My mother's an avid vitamin taker. And so I've got these vitamin pills, and I had taken some no-dose pills. No-dose pills are basically just like pure caffeine. I would take them because we were taking tests, and I would have to study and make sure I passed in the SATs and this and that.
Caffeine is a drug, so you have to be very careful with caffeine. You can get addicted to it, and then when you get off of it, you actually go through withdrawals. It's insane. It's like a legit drug.
It would give you a jolt of energy if you took them as you were supposed to. Of course, I didn't. I don't even know how many I took, but I took a ton of them. And I was shoving them in my mouth like they were just, candy. I remember gulping them down, and some of them fell out in the fountain there, and I picked it back up and shoved them back in my mouth.
Oh.
By the time the chaperone got us together and we're loading our stuff onto the bus, I remember starting to feel a little change in my body, my system. Something wasn't quite right. I remember the first thing I started feeling was this tingling under my skin. And my heart was racing.
Too much caffeine.
Bit. And that was sort of like a little precursor to what was coming. And I remember we had already started taking off. And I just got to the point where I literally felt like I could jump out of my skin. And I remember sort of just like I was leaning over like this, and my heart started really racing, to the point where I started hearing it. And I don't know if anyone has ever had that feeling, but it's a super weird feeling because you don't hear anything else but your heart. And it got to the point where I could hear it, boom, 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 boom. And I just was like, oh, what the? What is this? And at some point, it just reached
a
crescendo. Like it just stopped with the boom, and it started super slowing down. And that's when I really became so terrified. If someone had screamed at me, I'd have never heard it. I'm only hearing my heart racing and then slowing down and slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And I remember the absolute moment it stopped. That's the most terrifying moment I've ever had in my life. And it was at that moment I just popped out of my body.
Oh my goodness.
It was instantaneous. No loss in consciousness whatsoever. And I remember I had the view of my body, but I also had a omnidirectional view. And I remember seeing my body, not realizing that I had died. And I'm looking at this me that's laying there, and I was almost unrecognizable because your body, when you're looking at it from a complete view, it's not like the mirror view. It's a completely different look. You're like clay.
Whoa.
Formed clay, sort of. And I'm looking at myself, and I know it's me, but I don't.
That would make sense because God made us out of dirt.
I don't feel it connect. There were two types of feelings I was having. The first one was sort of trying to figure out what the hell just happened, because I'm not dead. No way. I can't be. I'm so alive. And I felt great. Like I just felt, you're not ever like as a teenager, your body feels great. Like you're almost invincible, right? Well, imagine that times like 1,000. That's how I felt. But I'm also seeing this physical realm in a way that I've never dreamed possible I could see it before. And so I'm in awe. When I was purely consciousness, okay, things were not as dense to me. I could see all the layers of things. And I'm seeing all these little energy patterns everywhere, like little waves of energy everywhere. And I'll never forget this. There was this metal bar at the front of the bus that people usually hold on to if they're getting ready to exit or whatever. And I remember there was literally energy coming off that bar, this inanimate object. The bus driver at some point cursed loudly at the traffic, and it just drew my attention to him. I was able to see through his exterior physical body because, like I said, I saw the full spectrum of things. And because of that, I knew also that he was like sickly. And other things came up about him, about his life, and I knew that he was cheating, and he had a couple of kids, and they weren't all by the same woman. And whoa. I was seeing all the energy that was being emitted.
The bus driver was cheating, and she saw that. That's why you can't be cheating out there. Everything that is done in darkness will be brought to light. So she could see energy after she died. Let's see what else.
This is a tiny part of it. Tiny, minuscule part of it. Being into this realm, and I didn't want to ever be anywhere else. That was it. It was like I was home. Within this realm, I got to connect with different worlds, different creations. I experienced just an influx of so many different facets of existence. And believe me, this is a tiny part of it. Tiny, minuscule part of it. There was like a transference of a whole thought. So imagine a thought having color, feeling, any sound, anything that you can imagine, but being transferred inaudibly. And that's how I received information from this entity who explained to me that they were my spiritual companion. We call them guides. They didn't impart a lot of information to me as far as like energy just wasn't there for it, and it just wasn't my purpose. And they put all that in one thought, and I understood, and I accepted it. And then I saw how me taking the no-dos wasn't actually just an accident or a flippant type thought. It was literally an energy path that I was supposed to take. It was literally supposed to happen that way.
That's interesting. She knew that was part of her plan to die that way. But she came back to life, so let's see how.
Because at that point, I felt so expansive and so alive and so magnificent. So live the best way I could in this life that I was focused on. And that stuck with me ever since. I've never forgotten it. That was our very last interaction. I wasn't told or given a choice. Hey, do you want to go back or do you want to stay? There was none of that. All I knew is the very next thing was I was going through a different type of portal. It started out extremely ethereal, but
Whoa,
it picked
portal.
up density. It almost felt
That's
like I was
insane.
going through mud, a sort of muddy type of water. And then it felt super heavy, the heaviness of it. And trying to connect back to feeling and the sensations of this body was not easy. I had to think it first. I'm like, okay, my arm, my leg, you know. And at some point, again, I heard my heartbeat, okay? But it was normal. And it wasn't a scary type of heartbeat like I initially felt when it was racing and then slowing down. This was like a normal rhythm. It was trying to get its rhythm back. Finally, by this point, I knew that body had died. And so I almost felt like a stranger in this body at some point. I didn't feel, it felt like I was animating a puppet. That's kind of how it felt. I was pulling the strings and animating a puppet, sort of, but I remember being able to twitch and sort of move at some point in my heart, and then I couldn't hear it anymore, and that was a relief.
So she went through a portal, right? Imagine a portal, right? She went through a portal, and then she saw an entity, which most likely was an angel, who she was able to feel happiness and understand like creation. And then when she came back to life, she went through another portal, right? She went back into her body, which she said felt like a puppet, because the spirit and the body are two separate things. So the body's just a vessel. So she could feel that difference when she came back into her body. So we are spiritual beings. So atheists who say that nothing happens after you die, you're just dead as a dog. Yeah, that's not true. There's a spiritual entity inside of us that controls this vessel of this body. And when Jesus comes back, those two will be separated and will be into our immortal bodies. Let's check out another one and see the similarities. Peggy Robinson.
My name is Peggy Robinson. I was raised, but then the angel voice I heard earlier, she now appears hovering over the road, but they run around playing kickball with them. I thought, well, they don't see me. This is boring. And I went on down in and out of houses on the left towards my grandma's house. We were looking over at a fish tank. You could see above and below. It was like I was an outsider looking at both. I thought, and I'm dropping down deeper. It's muddy brown. And my name is Peggy Robinson. I was raised in Southeast Ohio. And when I was 5 years old, we had moved out to the country outside of Marietta. And I was sitting alone in my room on the floor playing with my Barbie dolls. And my mom come in and said, it's hot outside. Let's go swimming. And so I hurried, got my little bikini on. And my brother, he's 2 years older than me. He was in his trunks in no time. And so we got to the pond down below our hill. And John, my brother, he went clear to the farthest end of the pond. And he dove in and started doing laps. My mom had said that her and my sister would be down after a bit. So as I'm wading in, I saw a board floating, and I thought, I bet I could use that as a raft. So I laid my belly on it, and I went swimming straight out to the middle. And I said, "Hey, John, look at me." And he swam real fast out to me. And as he's almost to me, I thought, oh no, he always takes my toys. He's going to take my board. And that's just what he did. He grabbed that board, he put his own belly on it, and was doing his laps on the board. So now I'm in the middle of the pond, and I can't swim.
Oh,
So I look for
no.
my middle sister, Terry, my mom, to look out for me, and they're not there. Like nobody knows.
The brother took her board and she can't swim and she's in the middle of the lake. The brother took the board on purpose, knowing this. This shows you the human ability for the readiness to do evil. That's why we need Christ, because humans are evil in their hearts. That's why God shortened our lifespan in the first place.
I'm in trouble. I'm trying real hard to keep my head above water, and I'm thinking I made a big mistake coming out here. I should know how to swim. I should know how to tread water. I can't do anything. And it wasn't long at all that my little face was no longer above the water, but under the water. And I'm dropping down deeper. It's muddy brown, and I just wanted to get above and get some oxygen. I'm scared. I'm screaming. Then all of a sudden, I'm at the ceiling of the kitchen, and I'm looking down, and I see my mom and my sister. They're slowly getting things out of the cabinet to bring down, like for a picnic, and I feel their emotions. I don't hear anything like earthly, worldly. I'm just sensing, feeling their mood and their emotions. And then I'm back in the water, and I'm continually struggling. So I think my soul must have left my body for a moment and come back. But now my throat hurts so bad, it feels like it's going to burst wide open, and I can't take it anymore. But then it's like that calm feeling you have when you wake up from a nap.
She's drowning.
Relaxed feeling like everything's fine with the world. And I thought at 5 years old, thinking, my parents lied to me. There's no such thing as drowning. What was I afraid of? Because I'm not struggling to breathe. I can breathe. I'm fine. And the water's no longer that dark, scary, muddy brown where I couldn't see. It's now a bright white, transparent green. So I think, oh, okay, this is cool. I can't wait to tell my older siblings there's no such thing as drowning. Then I'm sinking down below, which before would have terrified me. And the fish are bumping into me. And I'm just going off like driftwood. And I'm thinking, why aren't they afraid of me? When we go fishing with Dad, we try to catch the fish with our bare hands, and they'd always get away from us, but they're not afraid of me. And this aha moment comes, like, oh, these fish bumping into me, they know something I don't. I'm dead. And I had a vision of the future. I could see my family in our white station wagon, my parents, the 4 kids, going in and out of there, and they would always say, that's where Peg is. I thought I would always be at the bottom of this pond, like they would never find me. So I raised up to the top edge of the pond, and I thought, well, there's something different about my vision now. I can see below the water and above the water at the same time. Like if you were looking over at a fish tank, you could see above and below. It was like I was an outsider looking at both. I thought, this is strange. And I thought, well, I'm bored with below. I think I want to go above. So I went above slowly. I got high as the treetops, and I thought, that's fine for now. And I could see Route 7, the highway, over top it. I could see clear to the Ohio River, right past the Route 7. And if I turned to my right, I could see the train tracks, went all the way down, past our house above the hill.
That's just beautiful.
It was cool as a 5-year-old being able to see from that advantage. And I looked down to where I walked to the pond, and I thought I could only see as far as my height before. And now I can see everywhere. And I thought, well, since I can hover, I suppose I could fly. And then I heard a female voice, but I didn't see anyone. I heard it a certain distance, like I could tell where she was. It's like a young woman's voice. And she says, no, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back. And I thought, go back? That's not how death works. I know that much at 5 years old.
Whoa.
And I don't think I have to.
So the angel told her that she was about to die, But if they find her body soon, she can go back. That's insane.
To listen to anybody anymore.
So that shows there are angels. How can that be just your neurons firing in your brain? It's a little kid. A kid doesn't know anything about this stuff.
I want to go find other kids to play with. So I went back towards the pond and I saw two boys walking. One was about my age and one was a few years older, and they're carrying fishing poles and a bucket. And I'm walking along saying, "Where are you going? What are you doing? What are you doing?" And they're ignoring me. And then the one my age, it's like we're telepathic talking. He's like, "Well, we're hurrying home and we're late getting home, and we're in a hurry." And I'm like, well, they're just ignoring me like my siblings. So I went flying over the highway. I saw the billboard on the right as you dip down West Side Marietta towards my grandma's house. There's a bunch of kids playing in a yard, and I was running around playing kickball with them. I thought, well, they don't see me. This is boring. And I went on down in and out of houses on the left towards my grandma's house. But at the same time, I thought I never left Heaven Over the Center of the Pond. I don't know how you could be in two places at once. And at some point, I now see my mom and my sister are now there. They have arrived. I didn't see them walking down or sitting down. I saw they was already sitting there on a bed sheet, and they're rubbing lotions on their arms and they're talking, and I could feel their conversation. I still didn't hear anything of this world, but I felt their conversation, and I felt jealous of my sister.
Wow. So she was able to fly around, see things, be in multiple places at once. Her real spiritual self, the capabilities are beyond our imagination. Now let's see.
The pond. I was going to go drown so I could go back flying, doing what I was doing. But then the angel voice I heard earlier, she now appears hovering over the road, and she looks like a thin, transparent white young woman in a flowing gown with long sleeves. She says,
so that was the angel that she saw. That's awesome. Now let's see what happens. She comes back.
Like a wildflower, and I'm going to be beautiful someday. And I'm just sitting here grinning and glowing. Like, I just know everything's going to work out fine. And so then another strange thing happened. I was laying down for a nap one day in my bedroom. The other kids were in school. And I woke up from my nap, and there's 3 people standing alongside my bed. And they're dressed like from 100 years ago. And there's one man in the middle, it looks like the father, and on each side it looks like a mother and maybe his daughter, like a teenage daughter. And the women, they're wearing my older sister's hand-me-downs. I saw myself as so plain and poor in comparison to the lake that's not far from anyone to take care of me like I did before, my mom and my sister. I'm going to have to be my own mother. And I thought, why am I here? Why would I go up to that hill to the house? I thought, I'm going to go back to the pond. I know it really hurts. It is scary, but I'm not going to fight it this time. Love me. And she said, well, you'll have a lot of love someday. And I said, where will I find it? And she pointed right towards Belpre, and then she was gone. Love me. And she said, well, you'll have a lot of love someday. Belly full of pond water. I'm sick and I'm weak. And then silence was my answer, that I was on my own now. And I felt very abandoned. And this knowledge, my family don't love me, and this just confirmed it. House. So now I'm staying alone on this road before the train tracks. With this knowledge, my family don't love me, and this just confirmed it. With a belly full of pond water, I'm sick and I'm weak. Confirmed it. Nods her head yes. That he look, and Mom takes a big sigh of relief. And Sister Terry are walking up ahead to his right. And when John says that, they both churn at the same time. Well, now, as I'm dangling over his right shoulder, I can see my mom and Sister Terry are walking up ahead to his right. And when John says that, they both he's looking for me. And I felt jealous of my sister because I thought, I'm dead. I'll never be old enough to have a conversation with my mom like that. And I looked over at my brother, and he's on my board, and I felt anger because he caused me to die. And nobody's looking for me. And at some point, I had a knowing my family didn't love me. And then a voice, clear inside of my head, but it wasn't me. Someone said, children are sent here to be loved. That is why God sends them here. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not fair. You show me my family don't love me. Now you tell me that's why God sends them here, but I'm not loved. And this strong feeling of injustice grew in me. Well, the next thing I know, I'm waking up and I realize I'm being carried over my brother John's right shoulder. And against his bare back, I'm throwing up this pond water down his back. And he goes, "Mom, can I put her down now?" As I'm dangling over his right shoulder, I can see my mom and Sister Terry are walking up ahead to his right. And when John says that, they both turn at the same time and look. And Mom takes a big sigh of relief, nods her head yes, that he can put me down. But they turn right around and they keep walking up the hill. And I'm feeling their emotions still. This secrecy, kind of like instead of mother and daughter, like they're friends in trouble. Like my mom's going to be in trouble for this happening to me. And they continue and just walk right on up the hill. My brother puts me down and he runs real fast. In a second, he's disappeared. He's went up the steps and up the hill to our house. So now I'm staying alone on this road before the train tracks. With this knowledge, my family don't love me, and this just confirmed it. With a belly full of pond water,
That's low-key sad. She could feel their emotions, and instead of feeling like worry and sadness, the first emotion that she felt from her mother was that she was going to get in, that the mom was worried she was going to get in trouble. That's low-key sad.
sick and I'm weak. And then silence was my answer, that I was on my own now. And I felt very abandoned. And I thought, why am I here? Why would I go up to that hill to the house? I thought, I'm going to go back to the pond. I know it really hurts and it's scary, but I'm not going to fight it this time. So I took a few steps going back to the pond. I was going to go drown so I could go back flying, doing what I was doing. But then the angel voice I heard earlier, she now appears hovering over the road, and she looks like a thin, transparent white young woman in a flowing gown with long sleeves. She says, "No, don't." I said, "Why? You know they don't love me." And she says, "Well, you'll have a lot of love someday." And I said, "Where will I find it?" And she pointed right towards Belpre, and then she was gone. And so I went on up to the house. I got in my nightgown, I crawled in bed, and I thought, I'm going to have to take care of myself now. I can't depend on anyone to take care of me like I did before, my mom and my sister. I'm going to have to be my own mother. And I picked up a nursery rhyme book, and I flipped through, and I stopped The Old Woman That Lived in a Shoe. And I looked at the picture of all these beds lined up, and I had this knowing that I was going to have a lot of kids someday. Because when the angel said you'll have a lot of love someday, I think she meant that I would have a lot of orphans, that I would love unloved kids like me. And so strange things started happening after that. Of course, I didn't talk to anybody. I had no words for it. I knew nobody would believe me. But maybe about a week later, it seems like, we went to Vito.
Wow, so she came back to life. Her brother took her out. Wow. So that wasn't in her head. That's crazy.
Lake that's not far from our house. We went there frequently. Dad took us all fishing, 5 kids and Mom. And we got out of the car, and all the kids got their fishing poles and started fishing. And I felt led. I felt like something was like, come over here. And so I started headed towards the woods. And I thought, why am I here? I don't want to be here. And something saying, you need to be here. And so I looked around, and I saw a flower. And I sat down and looked at that flower. And mind you, I'm 5 years old. And I was like, how did you grow here? You grew out from under a rock. How did you do this? And it was just moving in the wind. And my 5-year-old mind is like dancing in the wind, like it was rejoicing. It made it out of this horrible environment. And then I got a vision of the girls in my Sunday school class that had the long hair and the bows and ribbons and nice dresses and fancy socks and shoes. And then I saw myself, this chopped up, short pixie haircut, wearing my older sister's hand-me-downs. I saw myself as so plain and poor in comparison. And a voice said to me that I have something those girls will never have. I have the will of a wildflower. Just like this flower, it grew in this harsh environment.
That's very beautiful.
Just like from 100 years ago. And there's one man.
So we're going to hear about experience she had after her near-death experience, where she saw some ghosts, perhaps angels, because I believe there's no such thing as ghosts. I believe there's angels and demons, no ghosts. So she sees some angels in her bedroom at night. So let's hear about that.
Thinking, I have a secret that nobody knows, that I'm going to be strong like a wildflower and I'm going to be beautiful someday. And I'm just sitting here grinning and glowing. Like, I just know everything's going to work out fine. And so then another strange thing happened. I was laying down for a nap one day in my bedroom. The other kids were in school. And I woke up from my nap and there's 3 people standing alongside my bed. And they're dressed like from 100 years ago. And there's one man in the middle, it looks like the father, and on each side, it looks like a mother and maybe his daughter, like a teenage daughter. And the women, their hair's pulled back tight. They've got long dresses, like they're poor, but long aprons. And they're looking down at me. And I'm laying there in a bed, and I'm thinking, who are these people? Why are they look like they're mourning my death? Like if you were in a casket, somebody looking down at you. That's the way they were standing there in a row. Like, what is going on? So I closed my eyes. I am not opening my eyes until they're gone. Just go away, go away. I don't want to see you. And I kept opening, and finally they were gone. So I got out of bed and I said, Mom, who was those people in my room? There's nobody here. So like, what in the world? None of this made sense. These memories just kept popping up through my life, and I just put them away.
Interesting. So they didn't say anything to her. All right, got one more. Tammy Lee Anderson. And then we'll talk about the similarities. And then we'll talk about the similarities and what this means as far as it goes for a Christian, and why it's proof that Jesus and an afterlife and heaven and hell exist.
My name is Tammy Lee Anderson. I've always been connected to God or source or universe, whatever you call, since I was little. I've had precognitive ability all my life, and I've considered it kind of an unfortunate ability. I was such a small weight that when they gave me the anesthesia, I went out of my body and my heart stopped on them. So they couldn't do the surgery, and they had to work on my heart for quite a while to get me to come back. It kind of drove me as a child. And smells of the hospital, I remember the smells. I remember this longing to find love of all my life. And it doesn't mean it was figures going towards the light. Weak, and I wasn't drinking enough water. And what happened was, I think I had a heat stroke. And all I can say is I went out of my body. I went into the spirit world. And the first thing I experienced was going into the tunnel that everybody talks about, the light. There was many, many souls, and I could see outlines of figures going towards the light. The love was just beyond anything that you can put into words. And then I saw my grandfather in front of me. He was going towards the light, and I saw his back. And my grandfather was a very quiet man. He didn't say a lot in my life, but I loved him very much. And at that time, he was the first person close to me that had passed. I had known when he passed. I was clear across the country, but I called home, and I was upset because I knew that he had passed. I just said, hello. But it's hard to explain because it wasn't just mind to mind. It was through your whole body, through your whole soul. I knew everything about him. He knew everything about me. And there were just no boundaries. It was just like complete knowing. I'm feeling him. And then I asked him, I said, Okay, so I've heard a lot about Jesus. Can you tell me about him? The real deal, because, there's a lot of stories, but what's the real Jesus like? And as soon as I said that, Jesus appeared in my awareness. He was right in front of me, and beyond words, the love. And I wish that I could express this. In fact, when I just talk about it, it's just like I just want to go into that love,
Amen.
that light that he was. And so I started going into that love.
Jesus.
And what happened was this being, this light being, I want to say, I'll give it a female feeling because this light presence didn't have a gender, but just for word's sake, I'll say female because the sense was soft. And she pulled me to the side because I was going towards the light. And I just had all these questions. Why is there suffering in the world? People are born into abusive homes, or any question that I had, I was asking very quickly. And I realized as I was asking with my words, that as soon as I asked with my words, then the answer would come into my awareness immediately.
So what's the answer?
And so as I asked the questions faster, faster, and faster, soon I realized that we were communicating telepathically without words. And all I had, and the experience is more real than real. Didn't have a chance to say yes or no. I sure would have said no. As far as the precognitive ability, I've never seen this as a gift. Miracles happen every day, and we're part of that miracle. It's not just for a certain few, it's for all of us if we actually realize who we are in the moment, which is much more than we can imagine. These are questions that are a bit challenging to answer because everybody's experience in this life is unique. Everyone is a true universe. It's interesting because the founder of Aikido said, "I am the universe." That's one of his famous.
So she had a heat stroke and died, and she saw an angel and she saw Jesus. And after she saw Jesus, she tried asking the angel all these questions, and she got the answers when she was in the afterlife, but wasn't able to bring them back because she didn't answer. So those were the 3 near-death experiences that we tried to uncover. We investigated to try to figure out and uncover the mysteries behind near-death experiences and what happens in the afterlife. So it seems like it's very peaceful, and all of these people have the ability to fly, to have different abilities like being in multiple places at once, seeing a wide span of an area. They're able to see angels, entities and speak to them and understand more things about life. So this is proof. This is proof that Jesus is real, angels are real, the afterlife is real. I saw a statistic that shows 10% of people experience near-death experiences and see something. So that's why there's proof that Jesus is real. And that's why Christians are constantly made fun of and aren't allowed and aren't pushed as much as other creators, because it's real, and it's so real people don't want to talk about it. So that's all I got. Hope you have a great day. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Check out my Twitch. Make sure you subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Leave a like, comment down below any experiences you might have had. And I'll go ahead and check them out. God bless.